Hello folks, welcome to another video here on Nick's Vision to Hear. Always great to have you on board. Today I thought we might continue our series on congenital rubella syndrome. But what I want to talk about today is how this was handled by different countries. Now we have a benchmark to look at here because we can look at COVID-19 and how it was handled worldwide and quite swiftly. Wasn't always the case. When you look at the pandemic of rubella in 1964, 1965, this was handled much differently. And the reason for that is information flow. Now, there's something else that happened in the late 60s, which was introduced in various countries around the world, was the contraceptive pill. So maybe there may have been a fear amongst childbearing age women to think, okay, if I take this, I'm not going to have an accidental pregnancy. So there may have been something to do with that around the rubella scare of the time. So once that was brought out, it sort of allowed women to have a bit more surety in this way. But let's get back to the rubella conversation because it's very interesting to talk about this. This wasn't rolled out as fast as people think in regards to a vaccine. In fact, it was quite stagnated, which is quite surprising considering the severity of what this particular syndrome, congenital rubella syndrome, caused. So the Americans acted pretty swiftly. They worked on a vaccine and got it out into the community very quickly, and they vaccinated both girls and boys. Now, I'm not sure as to the age group they vaccinated, but I do know it was given to both girls and boys relatively quickly. And I think they figured that if they can get this out of the population in birth rates, the quicker the better. Now, we must remember back in those days, women and boys married younger. So marriage was something that was done a lot quicker in a relationship in a sense. So let's say a couple met when they were 18 and they maybe got engaged when they were 19 and they may be married at 20. That wasn't uncommon back then. So when you understand what I'm about to tell you, you can understand why they did this. In Australia in 1971, they decided to put this into the school's vaccination program, but they only gave it to girls aged between 10 and 16. So now you can understand why those years were very important, because what they'd figured out was that this was needed to be wiped out of a population, but they figured to do it only with girls so it wasn't exposing them to the virus through pregnancy. Now, from what I've done in my research, other countries like even the UK didn't really start mass vaccinations from what I'm aware of until the 1980s, including the Netherlands as well, didn't start till very late. So there's a real mix of how this was controlled, and you certainly have to really wonder what the problem was. Well, I can tell you, it's about how information flowed in those days. And to explain this from a perspective of being a person that's worked in media for many years, information flowed very difficultly during that period. The reason is media was not centralized. So media was independently owned. You had media owned by religious groups, you had it owned by business people, you had all sorts of, a mix everywhere. Even the metropolitan big stations, which seemed to brand themselves together, were actually independently owned. So information flow was very, very different to what we know today. So as we noted during COVID, information flowed quickly. That's because technology is available. When we look at this happened in the 1960s. So information flow was really restrictive. So thus what happened, there was a lot of word of mouth in those days. Now, in those days, it wasn't word of mouth online, it was around people's kitchen tables. And so as this started to become a problem, it was before this pandemic, but this is obviously the peak of it. This is where it sort of got to its peak and they had to do something about it. So information didn't flow as well. And so what we were told as sufferers of congenital rubella syndrome by our families, after what I've read during the week and reading up on all this, it's hard to digest the whole truth because we were never told the full truth. And the reason why is because information didn't flow as well. we couldn't get on our mothers couldn't get on the internet in the 1970s. It didn't exist. It didn't start to get in existence until really the 1990s. So we sort of were limited by information flow, and so they relied on their doctors and they relied on newspaper articles and word of mouth amongst their cohorts sitting around a kitchen table. So information flowed very differently. So we have to understand, as sufferers of congenital rubella syndrome, as to what our mothers may have been told was maybe only part of the truth, and we've just joined the dots. So that's where our parents need to understand what we're learning today is the whole picture, and we can do that in the palm of our hands. So it's very different today as to what it was back then. And so whilst I've been reading all this information, it's certainly an eye-opener for me. It's a little bit alarming that I know why we weren't told the truth by our parents, because information didn't flow well in those days. And I guess that's something we have to understand. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. We must understand that. It isn't. It's no one's fault. It's just we were dealt a bad hand, and we have to understand that in our aging lives now. As I talked about in my previous video, it's all connected. Everything we've done in our lives, we've witnessed medical episodes, we've had life experiences. It all stems back to that root cause, and that root cause is congenital rubella syndrome. You enjoy your day. We'll catch you soon on another video here on Nick's Vision to Hear. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, so when I get another bright idea for a video, you'll be the first to know. Enjoy your day.